Michael Hicks, and I've chosen scenario number 2 for the flight presentation, which is a flight from Kill Devil Hill, North Carolina to Lynchburg, Virginia. Total distance is 188 nautical miles. It's going to take about 1 hour and 56 minutes to arrive. Estimated fuel burn for the trip is going to be 20 gallons. We're expecting a 14-knot crosswind, possibly gusting up to 20 knots. And we have one fuel stop in between our departure and our destination airports, which would be Emporia, Greensville Regional. So in order to do this, you need to ask yourself, can I fly? Well, you need to go over the I'm safe checklist. You need to check for illnesses. Are you feeling well? Are you feeling ill? Do you feel sick? Think about medications. Are you taking anything that can inhibit your abilities to fly or to react appropriately or quickly? Is there anything in your life going on that's stressful? Do you have a boss that is breathing down your neck? Are you tight on money? Are you tight on time? Alcohol would be another one. If you just got off a bender and it's 4 hours before you're supposed to fly, then no, you can't, because it's 8 hours between drinking and flying, and a hangover is still considered alcohol in your system. Food and fatigue would be another one. Flying hungry is almost just as dangerous as flying drunk, and same as tired. Food and fatigue. So you need to make sure, have I eaten enough? Have I slept enough? And emotion. You need to essentially make sure that your mental and emotional health is well enough to be able to complete the flight without anything adverse happening. So if you're all okay to go, your next option would be to check to make sure your aircraft is safe. You need your basic documents such as an airworthiness certificate. Got to make sure your registration is up to date. Since we're not flying internationally for this cross country, you don't have to worry about a radio operator's license. You do need to know about your operational limitations, which can be found in your pilot's operating handbook. And you have to make sure that your weight and balance is in check. We all know a weight and balance that is outside the envelope can prove to be a very unhappy experience during flight. Since there is no fuel at the airport of origin, which is Kill Devil Hill, you need to make sure that there is enough fuel in your aircraft to make it to your first fuel stop. Keep in mind, you also need to have a 1 hour fuel reserve on top of the fuel you need to get to your fuel stop. The aircraft you're checking out is not the one you're used to. It does have carb heat, and it also has 40 degrees of flaps. Carb heat, even though you're going to be in the south and it's going to be about a 90-degree day, there is still a very high possibility of carburetor icing. It's because of the Bernoulli effect and the fuel cooling rapidly in the carburetor. If the conditions are right, there can be carb ice. So carb heat would help alleviate that. So you need to be aware of the conditions and the telltale signs that you are having carburetor icing. Also, most Cessnas do not have 40 degrees of flap. Some of the older ones do. You just need to take note of the maximum flap extension speeds for the 40 degree setting. And you also need to be very aware that there is 40 degrees of flaps, because on landing, if you're like me, your Cessna has 3 settings, and 40 degrees is not one of them. So you could throw that lever all the way down, you have 40 degrees of flaps, and things could happen that you did not intend. And the aircraft that you checked out, there were a couple of squawks saying that the engine had a hard time starting. It would turn, but it wouldn't catch all the time. And they also noticed a rough running mag on a run-up, and that the spark plug wires had been changed within the last 10 hours of flight. Definitely want to pay close attention to those issues, and most definitely the mag. So make sure when you do your run-up, you are very thorough about your run-up and you don't let anything slide. If it feels wrong, it's better to stay on the ground than to risk it in the air. Environmental factors. The airport that you're taking off out of originally, Kill Devil Hill, has a shorter runway than you're used to, which is 3,000 feet. Now, it's not necessarily that short, but it is shorter than most airfields. You want to make sure that your takeoff roll isn't going to exceed the length of the runway. That can also be found in your pilot's operating handbook, and it is most likely not going to have a 3,000 foot takeoff roll. So you should be okay there. Once again, there's no fuel at the origin airport, so you have to make sure that you have enough fuel to get to your planned fuel stop. If you do not, you need to adjust your plans to make a fuel stop earlier within the range that your aircraft can make it. The crosswind of 14 to 20 knots is going to be a factor. You're going to have to correct for wind for the majority of the flight, or as long as that crosswind persists. So you got to take note of that. Make sure you're correcting for crosswinds, because if you don't, you will end up off course and you could get lost. The flight plan after your fuel stop actually puts us through a military operations area. It's not necessarily a bad thing. However, you need to make sure that you are not entering the military operations area while it's in operation, or if there's any NOTAMs issued for non-entry. However, it's always a good idea to check your NOTAMs and check the MOA clearances before you leave. And flight following is definitely a plus if you're going through an MOA and it's available. Your external pressures for the trip. You promised yourself that once you got your private pilot's license, you wanted to do this flight. It's the birthplace of aviation. So you said, as soon as I get my private license, I'm going to go and do this. Well, you're doing that. However, you're also leaving your airport late, or later than intended. So you're going to get to your destination airport after dark. Not necessarily a bad thing, but it does change things a little bit. There is an incoming cold front. However, it's scheduled to arrive 2 hours after you do. So it shouldn't be an issue, but it is definitely something you would want to keep your eyes on throughout the course of the day. And at the end of the day, don't let the pressures decide for you. You're the one flying the aircraft, not everything else. So if something doesn't feel right, don't go, change the plans, do something to make it better. So, since you've already gotten all of the hard work out of the way, now is the fun part, be the flying. Your first leg, which would be Kill Devil Hill to Emporia Greensville Regional, which is your fuel stop. It's 97 nautical miles away. We're coming out to a estimated fuel burn of about 10 gallons. So, for argument's sake, when you check the fuel tanks at Kill Devil Hill, you had 25 gallons in total. That would leave you with about 14 gallons, and the reason I say that is there's still about a gallon or so for taxi, run up, and takeoff. So it's not 20, it wouldn't be 15, it would be about 14. So this would give you, if you're having the same fuel burn, an hour and a half of fuel reserve. So you are within your 1 hour time limit for a fuel reserve at going to this airport for a fuel stop. Second leg, once you filled up again, or once you've filled up, this is going to be the one that puts you through the military operations area. If you look at the map, probably about, I'd say a little bit less than half of the time you're in the air for the second leg, you're going to be in a military operations area. You could skirt around it, however that would take a considerable amount more time, and it would be a lot longer than 91 nautical miles from point to point. So, if you're going through the MOA, fortunately, this one in particular closes its operations at 1700. So, by the time you arrive at this by the time you arrive at this point in your flight, the operations will be ceased for the day. So you will not have to worry about any fast movers or military aircraft in the area. However, if you're on frequency, you can always ask for flight following from ATC. That way they know where you are, and if there's anybody in that area that's moving faster than you, they can let you and them know, and it also helps avoid any sort of mid-air collisions. Thank you very much for listening to my presentation. Once again, my name is Michael Hicks, and this is for AVIA 220.